broadcast of It's Time with Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. Here's Reverend Martin.
Thank you, Brother Blackwell. Hi, let me say Hotep Abaragani to my Africana Studies friends and contemporaries. And let me say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening maybe, but certainly never good night and never ever, thank you, a goodbye, because I hate goodbyes. My name is the Reverend Nathaniel Wayne Martin. I'm the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in the city of Los Angeles. And we're located at 8916 South Main. I want to put that in. Regardless of what Google might tell you, we're located at 8916 South Main. Big red letters, New Life Institutional Baptist Church. And we're being hosted by our sister church, the Shiloh Missionary Christian Church, which is pastored by my good friend, the Reverend Dr. Della F. Hollandus. Shiloh Missionary Christian Church is on that white sign, it's written in red on that white building. You can't miss it. Don't try to see the address. Just look for the name and park your car and come on in. All right. We have Friday night services tonight at 7. You're welcome to come and exercise your evangelistic gift within reason. And then, of course, Sunday will beginning at 10 a.m. with Sunday school, and around about 11:15 thereabouts, our morning worship is scheduled to begin. Okay, and tomorrow, if you're in the area, we have a breakfast being served at 9, and you can come on by and get a breakfast. Breakfast is $10. I'll put that before you. But it's going to be a good breakfast. Sister Deborah Milton is our resident cook. And yes, she can burn. So she's going to have smothered potatoes and onions. You know how smothered potatoes and onions taste, along with grits. Of course, I don't want to get off what I'm talking about because I make you hungry. But at any rate, that breakfast is tomorrow, Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. If you're in the area, come on by, all right? And if you ain't got no money, I'll pay for your breakfast. What was I going to say? The offering that you are viewing is entitled It's Time. It is a presentation of our social justice issues. And since social justice is such a broad theme, as the English teacher would aver, we quickly direct your attention to the fact that we are addressing the environmental and the economic aspects of social justice. All right? And we welcome your comments. And we will be making some changes in the very near future affecting how we are broadcasting, and we ask you to be patient with us as we go forward. All right? All right. Well, it's been a very interesting week here in the city of Los Angeles. The city council is in turmoil, which is not unusual for our city council, but this time it's a matter of racial bias, racial prejudice being expressed in private and winding up in the public. And we wouldn't know how these people were thinking if someone in the room had not had a voice recording of the deliberations which they were having in at the Union Hall. Mr. Herrera, who also has had to resign because of he's exposed as not race neutral, to put it that way. And some of the things that they were saying, they said some derogatory things about the black infant of one of the white city councilmen, Councilman Barnum, which were very hurtful to Councilman Barnum, and in addition, they termed the black child as a monkey. Can't think of the Spanish word that they were using, but when it was translated to the general public, it meant little black monkey. And she was the president of the city council, had just been elected, appointed to the presidency this very year, Miss Nuri Martinez, and now she has had to not only resign or step down from the presidency, but she's also had to resign from the city council in disgrace. And so that has been percolating. Councilman Cedillo is another one, and Councilman De Leon is the third of the city council people. And what makes that significant is because they are the ones that were in charge of redrawing the 15 councilmanic districts. And they would getting their heads together out of the city council to see how they could best advance their personal political careers and make the best restructuring or redrawing of the various districts. They were in charge of redrawing all of the districts. You hear me? And so they were seeking, therefore, to get an advantage, political advantage, for themselves. And we normally would have accepted their drawings if this recording had not surfaced. So now everyone is on guard, knowing that the people that they put in charge of drawing the redistrict were biased or not objective enough. And that is going to be a big brouhaha in the coming weeks. Like they said, Mr. Cedillo, he's almost out. I think he's termed out in December. And so he's going to try to hold on, I guess, to keep his benefits package. Mr. De Leon is going to hold on for dear life, I'm sure, because he needs his salary and he needs those benefits and the like. I don't think they can be fired, but I'm sure that they can be. The heat could be turned up on them so high that they would not be able to conduct the people's business. Let's put it that way, charitably. So that is what is happening downtown City Hall, Los Angeles, and it's not going away because the Reverend Saul, I was glad to see Reverend Saul's still active in the social justice arena, and others were very adamant that they want those council people to resign, and it would be best for the city so we could heal going forward, and it would be best for the city as they would be able to maybe get some more objective eyes to redraw those councilmanic districts. All right, and so that is something that is very hot in the city of Los Angeles right now. I want to go to education, and as I go to education, I want to bring before you a African writer that I have been introduced to. His name is Ngugi wa Thiong'o, and he has written many novels and memoirs, and he was a native of Kenya, but of course he went to jail because of one of his plays, and as a result, when he was released, he had to leave the country. So he's here in America for the last 20 or so years, and he is a professor of Literature in the University of Irvine here in California. What he has to say about memory or dismemory and rememory is quite cogent, quite instructive and salient, especially from the African worldview, because we all know that Europe invaded and for the most part has colonized every country in Africa. The only exceptions, I think, are Ethiopia and I believe Nigeria. Those were not settler states. They are not colonial states. But the rest of the countries that were not drawn up at the Berlin Conference of 1884-85 have subsequently been subjugated, and the people have been colonized. And reason why I brought this education piece up, Mr. Ngugi introduces the theory or the theses that when the colonizers came to the African continent, the first thing they did was kill the language. And give me this doggone phone here is driving me crazy here. All right. And so Dr. Ngugi says that the colonizers banned the language, which you call linguicide. Lingui, of course, is language, and side. You understand what that is, regardless of what it's used. It's always used in a derogatory or damaging, deleterious manner. Regicide, homicide, matricide, and the like. The suffix tells the tale. And so what the French, the British, the Portuguese, the Belgian, the Dutch, and the Spanish did in their colonies was to impose their language upon the people. And so Dr. Ngugi stresses and emphasizes just how vital and how imperative language is. It's imperative for the retention of memory. It's imperative for the expression of ideas in the present that will affect the future. And so he brings up the example of the late British poet Spencer. Can't think of his first name right now, but he wrote The Fairy Queen. But he was a colonizer. In other words, he had colonies over there on the continent of Ireland for the first part, and then Ngugi was able to extrapolate that how the British colonized Ireland. They forbade the people from speaking their language. They Spencer told them to stop letting the people have names like McClinton or O'Hara and all like that, because that was a nod to their culture, and we want them to learn our culture. And the fact that every conqueror imposes their culture on the people that they conquer. And that is why our history books are written by the conqueror. And so if the conqueror writes your history in his language, he's always going to make himself a hero. Which is why the old adage, until the lion has a historian, the hunter will always be a hero. be that as it may, you can readily begin to see how valuable language is, which means how valuable education is, and in what language are you educated. And Dr. Ngugi wa Thiong'o uses some very serious tropes or metaphors, I would call them. Not tropes, they're metaphors. He says the African mind was dismembered. That means to dismember, you mean you start separating parts of the body from other parts of the body. And he uses the example that some of the African kings were beheaded, decapitated, and their heads were shipped off to England, that same England over which we wept over Queen Elizabeth not many weeks ago. But they sit on the jewels and the riches of our African homeland, and they need to get up off of them. But I don't want to stray too far from what the point I'm trying to make is that when the colonizers began to invade the continent of Africa, Dr. Ngugi remarks that they dismembered the country. And how did they dismember it? Well, they took slaves, they captured people and enslaved them and put them in the holds of slave ships, and then they shipped those people off. That's what is called the diaspora, which is what you and I, who are black and and other nationalities that were brought to the shores of this continent against our will. We are the diaspora. We are really connected, still connected with our motherland, our continent of Africa, but we are over here on the western shores. And that's why they call us the diaspora. That means we were dismembered. So Africa was dismembered of its people, and then the people that were left were dismembered of their language and dismembered of their culture. And I found it very interesting. It says that no conqueror accepts the language of the people that they conquer. They always impose their language, which makes you Bible scholars remember the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Just remember that Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego had their own Hebrew names, and Mishael and the like. In other words, they remembered who they were, even though they were down in Babylon, which got them into hot water, but the Lord delivered them. And I won't take time to my mind tell me to look up, but I'm not going to take time out to look at it. The first one I can remember is Mishael, and I can't remember the other two Hebrew names. But the point of the conversation is that they never forgot who they were. You know, they were taken as children. They were brought to Babylon, and they became students in the Babylonian school system, and that's the education. Education is very important, but they never forgot who they were. They never forgot. They were not like most of us over here in the diaspora. We think we are Browns and Walkers and Smiths and Jones. We don't know who we are because that part of our history was dismembered, and we need to remember our history, which is the point of Dr. Ngugi's writings, that we must remember, not only in terms of of the faculty of memory, but in the faculty, in the sense that we need to get reconnected with our homeland and with our homeland language and the like. That's why Malcolm X and those who became Muslims, followers of Elijah Muhammad, rejected the slave master's name. I'm no longer Jones, I'm no longer Smith, I'm no longer Martin or Brown or Kirkendall or all of that kind of stuff. No, I'm just an X, since I can't say what my family name was originally and come from Africa. Just put an X there. So that is the sense behind that. Of course, you know that. But Dr. Ngugi has written very learned treatises, novels, and books, and memoirs, in which he highlights how insidious the colonizer has been in denying us our language and causing us to speak his language. Africans don't speak English. Africans don't speak French, but the Africans don't speak Portuguese. But those languages were what? Imposed upon the people by the colonizers who colonized and conquered the land. So they wanted to raise them up, some people that would only have the knowledge that the colonizer put in their head. And that is one of the biggest hurdles that we as black people in this country have yet to overcome. And that is to reprogram ourselves from this Eurocentric culture and begin to brush away the cobwebs and sweep the dust off the floor and see the roots, our African roots of our history and of our culture, and begin to heal our minds, put our minds back together, remembering, as Dr. Ngugi says, which has a double meaning. But I thought that would be very topical, a very good topic for us to consider. My time is almost up. Let me read my reparation scripture, because I didn't tell you I believe in reparation. Whether we get it or not, we owe it. All right. And so that's the economic component. You have the environmental component, which is the climate, the weather, as well as geographical location where you are, and then you have the environment as it relates to the sociological. And believe me, we are in danger of being brainwashed, whitewashed, and we need to recover our steps and recover our history, recover our culture, our customs, our traditions. That's why I started putting Hotep at the beginning of my broadcast, because I want to acknowledge that I know I'm not just a United States citizen. I'm a citizen of the world. All right, now let me quickly read Deuteronomy 15, beginning at verse 12. And this is what it says. It's about reparation. And if thy brother, an Hebrew man or an Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him or her go free from thee. And when thou sendest them out free from thee, thou shalt not let him or her go away empty. Thou shalt furnish them liberally out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy wine press. Of that wherewith the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, thou shalt give. Don't loan, don't lend, don't lease, don't rent, but give unto them, so that they should have somewhat when they leave you better than they were when they came. All right, if they came there on foot, they ought to be leaving riding on some type of an animal, because it says, give them out of thy flock and out of thy floor. That floor, of course, is the wheat and the barley and the corn and all of those things that were growing, that grew customarily in that part of the world at that time, and not just figs, because figs grow wild. And the wine press, of course, you can understand that, because that was basically their medical system around the vineyard, centered around the vineyard, and quite wisely too, because a lot of our remedies come from our vineyards, from our herbs and spices and stuff like that. And so, you know the story of the Good Samaritan, when he came upon the man who had been robbed. He got down off of his beast and he poured in oil and wine. And so both of those, oil was a medicine and wine was a medicine. It wasn't just to drink, it wasn't to get drunk. No, wine was a medicine. It had healing virtues in it. I don't know what healing virtues it was in it, but I know it was healing virtues in it, because it was a staple. It was a something that was there that could be easily employed or utilized in wounds. All right, because they didn't have the alcohol that we have now, and the peroxide and all these other things, Bactine and all those other products that we have in our modern culture. But even our modern culture still has its roots in the old home remedies. Old people used to be able to go out in the woods and go out in the swamps, and whatever ail you, they could come back with something that would help you. Praise God. All right, and remember, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but we wrestle against principalities, against powers, against spiritual wickedness in high places, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. And I say that because even though I didn't get to the Supreme Court challenges that are still going on, we black people are still being challenged in the courts. Our rights are being undermined, and we need to be savvy, and we need to be adroit and skillful in how to address those types of approaches. You know, the man don't put a lynch rope around your neck, but he does go down to the educational board and school board, and he does set the curriculum. He does set the history book. He does say don't teach critical race theory in my classrooms, all of that type of thing. So he's never stopped, as the case that is before the Supreme Court now. The verdict will be rendered sometime this year, probably around June, July, August of this year. The case is Merrill v. Milligan, which is the Alabama redistricting case. All right. Okay, so you got to keep your eyes on what's before you. I was surprised that they did not give Nicholas Cruz the death penalty. If it was a case that called for the death penalty, when you murder 17 people and wound 17 more, you're supposed to get the death penalty. And I'm not a believer in the death penalty, but I was surprised that they didn't give him the death penalty, because he's in a death penalty state. All right, my time is up, finished, and I've already been given the 5 minutes, and I've gone past that. And so I ask you, as we are trying to hold on to our unions, because our unions give us bargaining power and the like, that you keep up your prayers. And if you're laboring, make people pay you for your labor, because once you put your labor out there, you cannot get it back. And remember, if you're working for somebody and they don't want to pay you, take my advice and don't work for them. Thank you, Doc. We out. Love you.
low.